You check your phone before your feet even hit the floor. A deposit landed overnight. The same modest amount it lands every single week. From a coin laundry across town you have not set foot in since spring. You did not work yesterday for that money. You did not think about it once. Your phone buzzes again, and it is Tyler, sending you a photo of a boat he cannot actually afford yet, captioned with 3 fire emojis. Here is the part almost nobody wants to hear. The gap between you and him was never talent, and it was never luck. It was always about the recurring floor beneath you, the income that keeps arriving whether you show up or not, versus the one big idea he is still waiting to strike. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you are going to look at every business you drive past completely differently, including the boring ones you have been ignoring your whole life. Nobody grows up dreaming about a laundromat or a dumpster rental company. From a young age, most people absorb the same quiet expectation that a real business has to look impressive to count, that the idea has to be original enough to talk about at a party, or it was never worth pursuing in the first place. That pressure is not personal, it is cultural, and it pushes an enormous number of smart, capable people toward the same overcrowded ideas every single year, while the unglamorous ones sit almost entirely unclaimed. Nobody ever sat you down and told you a business has to be exciting to be worth owning. You pick that up from watching which businesses get talked about and which ones get quietly ignored, and by the time you notice the pattern, you have already spent years avoiding the exact category of business most likely to actually pay you. There is a quiet list of businesses that almost nobody considers real, because they do not look like ambition, they look like errands. Nobody posts about owning a vending route or a pressure washing contract. Nobody films themselves collecting quarters from a laundromat coin box for the internet to see. That is exactly why almost no one is competing for them, and exactly why the people who quietly own them never have to explain their money to anyone. This is the countdown, from 10 down to 1, and the closer we get to the end, the less it is about any single business at all. Business number 10 is the vending machine route, tucked into break rooms and laundromats and auto shops that already have foot traffic built in before you ever show up. The entry cost is modest, closer to what most people spend upgrading a car than starting a company, and the machines themselves do not need supervision, only restocking on a schedule you control. The reason almost nobody touches it is that it looks too small to matter. A handful of dollars trickling out of a single machine, right up until someone owns 40 of them instead of one, and the trickle becomes something closer to a second paycheck they never had to clock in for. Business number 9 is residential dumpster rental, the kind homeowners call during a renovation and forget exists the other 50 weeks of the year. The equipment gets reused endlessly, dropped off, picked up, dropped off again somewhere else across town, and the demand never really goes away because people never stop renovating kitchens or clearing out garages. The entire business survives on the fact that almost no one thinks to look for it until they desperately need it, which means there is almost no competition standing between you and the phone ringing on a random Tuesday afternoon. If you are finding any of this useful so far, a like genuinely helps more than it seems like it would. It is the only reason this reaches somebody else who needs to hear it today, instead of disappearing into a feed they will never scroll back through. Business number 8 is a self-serve car wash bay, the kind you pay for in quarters and never think about the ownership of. It runs itself around the clock. It barely requires a conversation with a customer. The plumbing and the timer do the actual work, and the entire appeal is that it collects cash while you are doing something else entirely, including sleeping, including a vacation you never had to ask permission for. Business number 7 is a laundromat, and if this feels familiar, it should, because it is exactly the machine sitting behind that deposit from this morning. It is unglamorous by design, sitting on a corner most people drive past without a second glance. Nobody dreams about owning a laundromat as a kid. Nobody puts it on a vision board, and that is precisely the filter that keeps it available to the people willing to look past the glamour and toward the math sitting quietly underneath it. Business number 6 is a storage facility, and this one deserves an honest word of respect Because almost every version of the quiet position you will ever hear about eventually touches storage somewhere in the background. People rarely stop paying for storage once they start. They tell themselves it is temporary, and the months turn into years without anyone ever coming back to empty the unit. And the unit itself asks for almost nothing in return except a lock, a gate, and a little patience. Business number 5 is pressure washing for commercial properties, driveways, parking structures, building exteriors that need it on a schedule, whether anyone loves the work or not. Contracts renew quietly, year after year, because the alternative is a building that starts to look neglected, and the entire business model rewards consistency over creativity, which is exactly the trait almost nobody wants to be known for having at a dinner party, and exactly the trait that keeps the account on the books for a decade. Business number 4 is a small bookkeeping service built around a handful of local businesses that would rather pay someone monthly than think about their own numbers ever again. It is unglamorous, it is repetitive, it is the same categories and the same spreadsheet every single month, and it is one of the steadiest recurring relationships a person can build. Because once someone trusts you with their books, they almost never go looking for someone else, even if a cheaper option shows up down the street. If any of this is starting to reframe how you see the businesses around you, take a second and subscribe, because we walk through a new one of these every week, and you are going to want to see where this list actually ends. Business number 3 is a car detailing subscription, the kind people set up once and forget to cancel for years, because it quietly removes one more decision from their week. The value is not the wash itself. It is the fact that nobody wants to think about it, and they will pay indefinitely to keep it that way, the same way they pay for a dozen other subscriptions they could not name off the top of their head. Business number 2 is a pest control route, unglamorous almost to the point of being invisible, and yet one of the most consistently recurring services a household will ever pay for without complaint, on a quarterly schedule they barely remember agreeing to, because the alternative is something nobody wants to deal with themselves, and paying to never think about it again is worth more to most people than the service itself. And that brings us to business number 1, which is not actually a business at all. It is the principle sitting underneath every single one of the 9 you just heard. The one thing every single one of them has in common, even though they have almost nothing else in common. The difference between building real wealth and staying exactly where you are right now is almost never about which idea you pick, which industry looks trendiest this year, or which one you could explain the fastest at a dinner table. It is about whether that idea pays you once or pays you every single month, whether you show up or not. Think about it plainly. If you sell someone a single wash, you get paid once, and then you have to go find the next customer, and the next one after that, forever, for as long as you want the income to continue. If you build the thing that washes cars for strangers around the clock without you standing there, you get paid on a loop, and the loop does not care what kind of day you are having, whether you are sick, whether you are on vacation, whether you simply do not feel like working today. The laundromat, the storage unit, the pest control route, the bookkeeping client, the vending machines, the dumpster rentals, they all share that same invisible engine underneath them, quietly running whether or not anyone is watching. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it in every single business you pass for the rest of your life. You start looking at a parking lot full of stores differently. You start noticing which ones ask you to come back once, and which ones were built to have you coming back without ever deciding to. Here is where this actually lives for 2 people you might recognize. Tyler was 34 when he decided he wanted his time back. He spent 2 years chasing the perfect idea, an app nobody had built yet, a product that would finally be the one, the launch that would let him stop answering to anyone else's calendar. He read every framework, sat through every pitch night, rewrote the same deck a dozen times with a dozen new names on it. He burned through savings on launches that never held, because every idea he found himself excited about was already being chased by 1,000 other people just as sure of themselves, all reading the same books, all convinced the timing finally favored them specifically. Today, he is still employed, still searching, still convinced the right idea is one pivot away, still the loudest person in any room, describing what he is about to build. And every year that passes feels a little more urgent than the last, though he would never quite put it that way out loud. Rachel was the same age as Tyler when she started, but instead of chasing something new, she bought a small laundromat that had already been quietly running in her neighborhood for over a decade. She did not invent it, and she never once described herself as an entrepreneur at a dinner table. She bought proven cash flow from an owner who was ready to retire, kept the same machines, kept the same hours, changed almost nothing in the first year except who cashed the checks. While she paid down the loan, she picked up 2 vending machines at a nearby gym almost as an afterthought. The kind of decision that took an afternoon and a phone call, not a pitch deck. A few years later, the combined income from both was enough to let her leave the job she had been quietly counting down the days on without telling a single coworker why. Her money arrives now whether she is awake for it or not, exactly like it did this morning, and nobody looking at her ordinary week, her ordinary car, her ordinary grocery runs, would ever guess that this is how she built it. The difference between Tyler and Rachel was never intelligence, and it was never luck, and it was never starting capital, because they started with almost exactly the same amount. It was that one of them kept chasing the exciting thing everyone else wanted too, competing against a crowd he could never actually see, and the other one built the boring thing almost nobody else was willing to touch, in a field so empty it barely felt like competition at all. If you want us to walk through a situation that looks closer to yours in a future video, tell us in the comments, because that is exactly how this list keeps growing, one real situation at a time. There is one more detail worth sitting with, because it is the one that ties the whole list together. Tyler did not fail from a lack of effort. If anything, he likely worked harder than Rachel did in her first 2 years, chasing leads, pitching investors, staying up nights refining something that never quite landed, showing up to rooms full of people exactly as hungry as he was. He failed because he chose a field where thousands of people exactly like him were sprinting toward the same finish line, all at once, all convinced they would be the one to get there first, all reading the same 3 books about disruption on the same flight to the same conference. Rachel chose a field almost nobody wanted to stand in, a field with no stage and no applause and no pitch competition, which is exactly why, once she stepped into it, she had it almost entirely to herself, uncontested, for years. That is the part almost nobody says out loud about the businesses on this list. It is not that they are secretly lucrative in a way the exciting ideas are not. It is that they are secretly uncontested, and being uncontested for a decade is worth more than being brilliant for a single quarter. A crowded idea has to outrun everyone else chasing it just to survive. A boring idea only has to keep showing up. That is the entire distance between the deposit that lands in your account before you are even awake, and the deposit that only shows up the 1 month you manage to force it there yourself. If videos like this are part of how you think about building something that outlasts a single paycheck, subscribing keeps them coming. One new one every week, always built around the same idea, that the quiet position beats the loud one nearly every time, and that almost nobody is willing to compete for boring. And if any part of this list changed how you look at the businesses you pass without noticing on your own street, that is worth sharing with the one person in your life who is still waiting for the perfect idea to strike, still refining the deck, still one pivot away, because the boring one might already be sitting 2 blocks from their house, quietly collecting quarters, waiting for somebody to stop looking past it.